you as a leader will likely be leading remote teams in the future. So it's worth talking about what it takes to lead a remote team effectively. And in this video, we're going to share 3 tips for leading a remote team, whether you are remote because of a temporary setback, a temporary crisis, or whether you are fully remote from here on out. These tips will help you be a more effective leader to get that team what it needs to survive and thrive working remotely. Let me admit something right off the bat. I have no idea when the coronavirus pandemic is going to be over. I have no idea when the lockdowns, the increase in work from home, when all of that related to COVID-19 is going to end. I'm clueless on that. But I am very clear on one thing, and that is that the move towards working from home and managing remote teams that was kickstarted because of the crisis, that is not going away. A recent IBM study surveyed a wide variety of remote workers, people who've been asked specifically because of the pandemic to work from home. 54% of them, 54% said that they wanted to continue to work from home after the coronavirus pandemic was over. 70% of them, almost 3/4 of them, said they would like some flexibility to be able to work from home some of the time. So no matter what happens when this is all over, one thing is not over, and that is that you, as a leader, will likely be leading remote teams in the future. So it's worth talking about what it takes to lead a remote team effectively. And in this video, we're going to share 3 tips for leading a remote team, whether you are remote because of a temporary setback, a temporary crisis, or whether you are fully remote from here on out. These tips will help you be a more effective leader to get that team what it needs to survive and thrive working remotely. Now, the first thing you're going to need as a leader of a remote team is that you are going to need to make sure the team feels a sense of shared expectations. Shared expectations meaning there are new rules around when people are working, how they're working, what their communication preferences are. There is no water cooler anymore, and there is nobody checking the box to make sure you showed up at 9 and you stayed till 5 or later to get those bonus points as an employee. So you as the leader, this is one of the first things that you are going to need to develop, are shared expectations around how we're going to communicate, when we are going to communicate. Don't assume that 9 to 5 at the office means 9 to 5 working from home or working remotely. People are going to need to fit other areas of their life into their work. But you are going to want to find periods of overlap, times where if you needed to call a meeting and get everybody together online or I guess in person down the road, there are going to be times where you need to establish what are the overlapping hours. Is it 10 to 2 and then you have some flexibility around there? Is it just the morning hours and then take as many? You as the leader of the team need to lead that conversation. So this idea of shared expectations around communication, but also shared expectations around responsiveness are going to be hugely important. Is it 24 hours to respond to an email, or when you accidentally send that 11:30 p.m. email, are you expecting people to have read it and replied by 8 a.m. the next morning? The only way to know is to lead that conversation. And that's why you lead with shared expectations. But while you're seeking those shared expectations, you also need to be seeking the second piece of leading remote teams effectively. That is shared empathy. We're in a new world now, we're in a new style of working, and people have been experimenting with how they can fit their work and life better together, which means we need increasing amounts of empathy and understanding that not everybody works the way you prefer to work. Maybe people are working out of a dedicated home office, maybe they're working from the kitchen table, the same table their children are trying to learn on, or that their spouse or partner is also trying to work on. Maybe all they could get by way of an office was a screen that they could put around the corner of one room in their house, and that was their only private area. Maybe most of the videos they film are actually filmed inside their kid's playroom that gets cleaned up and redesigned as a film studio. Guilty. So one of the things we need to do while we're having that expectations conversation is develop a sense of shared empathy and understanding. When somebody's non-responsive, it may not be because they're angry at you, and it may not be because they don't understand what you asked of them. It just might be that their life and work balance looks a little bit different than yours. And as the leader, it's your job to develop that empathy and understanding. I also believe that that shared empathy and understanding comes with that sort of check-in time that often happen informally in meetings. I mean, here's my really big tip. You absolutely should start virtual meetings online, but you should actually start them about 10 minutes early. That way people can have the chit chat, the socialization, and have the discussions about other areas of their life that actually help lead to shared empathy and shared understanding over time. So shared expectations and a shared empathy or shared understanding, these conversations are a must and need to happen as quickly as possible, whether you are newly moving a team remote or whether you have ascended newly to the role of leader in a remote team. You need to develop those as quickly as possible. The other thing you need to develop and then reinforce on a regular basis is the third element of leading teams effectively, and that is a shared vision. Let me say right off the bat, I really wish I could find a way to turn vision into an E so that we could have 3 E's and it would be nice and neat, but give me some empathy on that. I waited a week to try and think of the right way to do it and I still couldn't. Decided I needed to film the video. Shared vision means that people know what they're working for, why they're working, and how it helps the world. In organizational psychology, we talk a lot about the importance of task significance to human motivation, specifically the salience of task significance, which is a fancy way of saying how important is the job to the finished product and how easy is it to see that finished product or the importance of how that work contributes to it. Now, when you're working in a factory, for example, and you can just repeat the same motion over and over and over and over again and never actually see the final product that you are developing, that's a very, very low on task salience. So letting people actually see the finished product has a huge motivating impact. Now, when we flip that from factory work to office work and now to office work from home or knowledge work from home, you would think it gets easier, but it actually gets harder to show people what the finished product of our work is. In a service economy, and especially in a knowledge work and electronic economy, it's a whole lot harder for people to see that finished product, that end goal, that way in which the work they're doing helps the world. That means it's your job as the leader to be constantly reminding them, to be bringing that task significance back to mind. You can do this in a number of ways. If you're familiar with my work, you know that I believe one of the primary jobs of a leader is to give his or her people a clear and concise answer to the question, what are we fighting for? Not who are we fighting, that's a question about competitors, but what is the good in the world that we are working towards? What are the values in the world that we are seeking to defend by our work? If you don't want to use a fight rhetoric, I totally understand. If you don't want to use something of conflict or struggle, I totally get it. You could try this. You could ask your people a simple question like, if our company ceased to exist, or if our team ceased to exist, who would be most negatively affected by that? That's who we serve, and that's how our finished product, the end result of our work, helps serve them. So this idea of a shared vision is hugely important, but it's also something that can go away over time. It's not enough, like shared expectations and shared empathy, none of these things are enough to start off with and then just ignore. Now, as a leader, it becomes your job to be that chief storyteller, that person who collects the thank you notes from customers, internal or external, that person who looks around for the stories of the way that your work is positively impacting the world. Make sure those stories get clipped, make sure they get circulated around. It's a good idea to work this into every single meeting, some reminder of the positive work that people are doing, because especially when you're working from home, especially when you're working remotely, it can start to look an awful lot like that factory worker drilling holes in one step in an assembly line process over and over and over again. And it can become really easy to lose any sense of task significance. So your job as the leader, not just for the individual, but for the team, is to bring that task significance back to the front. And you do that through shared vision. So if you're leading a remote team, either now you've just arrived into that leadership role or your team has just arrived into remote work, if you are unsure of when in the world you're going to go back to the office, or if you are sure that you're never going back, like the 54% of people in that IBM study, there are 3 things you need to know to lead your team effectively. Shared expectations is the first part. Lead that conversation about what we can expect from each other, how it is different, but how we now have some ground rules and norms. While we're doing that, we need to build shared empathy. So we have some understanding about the differences in people's work, whether that's timing, type of communication, or even responsiveness. We need some shared understanding or empathy around that. And lastly, and probably most importantly, we need to develop a shared vision for how our team is still contributing significantly to the finished product and making the world a better place. Shared expectations, shared empathy, shared vision. Take all 3 together, not just in the beginning of your leadership of that remote team, but on a regular basis. Remind people of what those things are so that you can help them stay the course, no matter where the course takes you in the world. Hey, thanks so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we post episodes like this as often as we can. And if you really enjoyed it and you want to go deeper, then check out our totally free course, 3 Days to a More Motivated and Aligned Team. You can sign up for it at davidburkus.com/3days. We'll see you there.